They say the desert remembers. Some dunes in southern Morocco are hundreds of millions of years old, and these dunes aren't silent. Locals call them an al-Rimel, the ice in the sand. In 2019, 5 researchers entered the Forbidden Dunes. Led by Dr. Vanessa Crowley, they trekked across the endless seas of sand, each dune identical to the next. They were warned. The sand is cursed. You won't return the same. But what did that mean? On day 3, as they unpacked, they found strange 3-toed footprints circling their tents. They laughed nervously. No one had been there before. There shouldn't be any tracks. That night Michael screamed in his sleep, thrashing about in his tent. Something breathed into his ear, whispering in an ancient tongue. When the others tried to console him, they found bruises circling his neck, red marks like fingers. No one slept that night. The next morning, Vanessa noticed something terrible. Their GPS had failed. They were lost. The desert seemed to have shifted. Landmarks had moved. Water that had shimmered beneath the dunes now vanished. It was a vast, unending sea of sand. And then they saw them. Beneath the sand, glowing eyes watched them. They shimmered with a cold light. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They were massive, like anacondas, yet reptilian, like something from a nightmare. Whatever they were, they sensed danger and vanished. They continued walking for 2 days without finding water or landmarks. Hope began to fade. Then suddenly the landscape changed. The dunes ended, and there before them stood a lone stone monolith. It was covered in symbols and etchings that appeared ancient. They had stumbled upon a sacred site, but who was it sacred to? Whatever the truth, their guide Youssef grew agitated. "We need to go now." As they hurried away, Jonas stopped. He stared at the monolith, mesmerized. "They're watching us." He pointed to the ground where dozens of yellow eyes shimmered beneath the sand. Gone when you blink, but always watching. That night around midnight, Jonas disappeared. His sleeping bag was untouched. The zipper lay open, but Jonas was gone. Had he simply wandered off and become lost in the endless sand? His companions searched for hours but found no trace of him. They left behind a note signed by all 5, begging for help. By some miracle it was found and searchers arrived, but Jonas was never seen again. The only trace of him left behind in his notebook. It was filled with diagrams of the desert, its people and animals. But one entry stood out, written in shaky handwriting. "They speak through the wind. I can hear them now." When they showed the rescuers the spot where Jonas disappeared, they discovered something incredible. Beneath the sand, 3-toed footprints surrounded the area like a ring. And in the center, one set of tracks led away from the others and vanished into the dunes. The footprints were cold. At first, the others thought they might have imagined Jonas's disappearance, that somehow he'd managed to wander far away and become hopelessly lost. But the footprints proved otherwise. Following the trackways, they soon came across a buried shrine. Scattered stones and symbols surrounded a monolithic statue. Its face had been chiseled away. Whoever it once depicted was now faceless. Then disaster struck. Michael stepped forward and touched it. He screamed and fell to his knees, bleeding from his nose. The others watched in horror as his skin grew pale. He convulsed and died before their eyes. Vanessa and Luis wanted to run to escape the evil of the place, but it was too late. The desert claimed another victim. With Michael dead, Vanessa and Luis decided to flee. They didn't know where they were going, but anywhere was better than here. Yet somehow they felt the dunes following them, their footsteps crunching beneath the relentless sun. Every few minutes a wave of heat rippled across the sands, distorting the world like a mirage. The air grew thick and heavy, making it hard to breathe. Then the sky turned black. A violent sandstorm raged across the dunes, whipping up a frenzy of wind and sand. Visibility dropped to 0. The storm lasted for hours, swallowing everything in its path. When it finally passed, the dunes had shifted. The sun beat down mercilessly on the now unfamiliar landscape. All around them the dunes had twisted and morphed. Landmarks had vanished. And then they heard a low growl rising from the sand. It echoed across the dunes, growing louder. Then more growls joined the chorus that were coming. Stranded and thirsty, they could only wait and hope to be rescued. But just as they lost hope, they spotted something in the distance. It looked like a small outpost, a cluster of buildings, and a sign marking the road. They staggered toward it, collapsing from exhaustion. As they drew closer, the buildings took shape. But as they reached the outpost, it, too, had vanished. What they thought they'd seen was a mirage, and there in front of them stretched the endless ocean of sand, empty and silent. Or was it? They could have sworn they heard voices echoing in the wind. Voices that whispered, taunted and laughed. Exhausted and starving, they made camp. Around sunset, the temperature dropped dramatically. A chill wind swept across the dunes, carrying voices that spoke in tongues unknown. Whispers brushed against their tents, scratching and clawing at the nylon fabric. Each rustle of the wind set their teeth on edge. They huddled together for warmth, too terrified to sleep. When dawn finally broke, they fled, running across the shifting sands, desperate to escape. The whispers pursued them. They called out, taunting them to slow down, and then they heard a voice that chilled them to the bone. It whispered right into Vanessa's ear. She spun around but saw nothing. Only the endless dunes rippled in the wind. Yet the voice was clear. Leave one of yours behind. The rest may go, it demanded. Days turned into nights. Sleepless and starving, they fought over who should stay behind, who would be sacrificed to the eyes in the sand. Finally, Luis volunteered. He told them to run, to get as far away as possible, as fast as they could. With a sob, Vanessa embraced him, then turned and fled. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs ached. Behind her, she heard screams, desperate pleas cut short by the wind. She didn't dare look back. Finally, collapsing from exhaustion, she crawled beneath a rock outcropping. She'd escaped, hadn't she? Safe at last. Then she heard the dunes shifting, shuffling closer. From beneath the sand, hundreds of gnarled hands erupted, gray, twisty, grabbing. They pulled her toward the sand, dragging her toward the waiting eyes. They wanted her to join them in the endless dark, to become part of the eternal night. But out of the corner of her eye, Vanessa saw something else. Hands, not gray and withered, but warm and alive. They reached out to pull her away, to save her from the clutches of the sand. With newfound strength, she scrambled away from the dunes, racing across the burning sands. She didn't know where she was going, but anywhere was better than here. She ran until she collapsed near the outpost. She had made it safe at last. When she was found, she was barely alive. In shock, repeating, "The eyes are still watching me." Her skin was golden, her eyes blazing with an unearthly light. Not blue golden. When she recovered, she was brought back to her hospital room. Sand would appear in the corners and sometimes three-toed footprints on the floor. So if you find yourself near those dunes, don't stay past sunset. The sand remembers. And the eyes, well, they're waiting.